the Senior Bowl. It's probably one of the biggest winners is probably Ted Hurst, wide receiver out of Georgia State. Everybody's talking about him. He's got the measurables. 6'3", he weighed in at 207, which is up from 195. Is what Georgia State had him listed at. What you saw from him is you saw the downfield speed he has. He's got a long stride length for a taller guy. You saw he can outrun guys, and he has shown the ability to high point the ball down the field. When I pulled up his tape from Georgia, I thought he needed a little bit of work on his route running from the short to intermediate. I think he needed a little bit of work on his release package. It's just to get his feet sped up a little bit more of a dynamic start and stop ability. But there's upside there. That's coaching. That's reps. He can add that to his game. But coming from where he was at, because usually during the draft process, he wasn't really a guy that was really mentioned among a whole lot of scouts, but he's had a big rise going up into the Senior Bowl, and he's probably jumped up a couple of rounds just from this performance.
Okay, any other standouts that you can think of, Randy?
Me? Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the guy, Tyron Montgomery, just to stick at the wide receiver position there. The kid out of John Carroll. I think from what I understand, he's put up a great week down there. I'm not down there in Mobile myself, but I've been watching the clips and kind of listening to everyone and everything that I can that's coming out of there. And Tyron Montgomery's had some real nice plays. He had a nice catch in the end zone. Well covered by Chris Johnson yesterday. And I mean, to my understanding, he's been stacking good days down there. He was completely not on the board for pretty much anyone. I don't think I heard his name at all prior to Senior Bowl week. I don't know if anybody here had any takes on Tyron Montgomery before, but he's really put himself on the map. Todd McShay yesterday was talking about him going potentially top 100, which seems like maybe that's a big jump from completely off the board to top 100. Kind of what are you guys seeing from Tyron Montgomery, and what do you think his reasonable draft range is in April?
I mean, I'll just tell you, since I'm here, I can confirm that he has been sort of the talk of the town, if you will. Coming out, he was at the American Bowl, sort of, that's kind of where I think he got put on the map, so to speak, in terms of, his draft process. But yeah, he's had three really good days. You mentioned the Moss, Mossing Chris Johnson catch, that got a big reaction, here in Mobile. There was another really nice rep, where he just sort of burned Colton Hood on a comeback route, or it might have been a curl route. But he like you said, he stacked several good days. I am hard pressed to find John Carroll film, as I imagine many people are. But if you're just sort of the broad sense, if you come in as a D3 wide receiver with virtually no hype and you outplay, I would say at least 95% of the wide receivers that were on the field this week, certainly I think top 100 is, in the conversation, logically. He's a little undersized. He's 5'11", 190. It's nothing terrible. But it looks like he's got the speed and he's got the route running chops to be a contributor and be a difference maker in an NFL offense. Matt, I don't know if you got a chance to watch him, what you thought of him this Senior Bowl week.
I did get to watch him for a little bit, some of the reps from the Senior Bowl. I was most impressed with simply his release off the line of scrimmage. His ability to just get off and separate immediately upon the snap was incredible. He had some in-cutting routes that were unbelievable. I was thoroughly impressed by by that. And to also go back to Ted Hurst, who I also think is a big winner. These are two small school wide receivers who are really like making the money for themselves. That's kind of what these events are all about. And they're showing that they can keep up with some of the better corners in the nation. Like you said, with him beating Colton Hood and Chris Johnson, those are huge reps for those two. So I was thoroughly impressed. Montgomery plays a lot bigger than he is too. I mean, those two impressive, climbing the ladder, making unreal catches. Definitely should be getting a lot of attention after this.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about getting film, Anthony, it's interesting. John Carroll University, I was doing a little bit of research into there, and small school, a lot of us hadn't heard of it, but we've heard of a lot of their alumni because their alumni absolutely litters the NFL, both personnel, coaching, front office ranks. There are a lot of these guys in the NFL that are probably going to have heard of Tyron Montgomery and have the inside scoop on him. I mean, we're talking about guys like Greg Roman, Josh McDaniels, Nick Caley, Brandon Staley, Chris Shula. There's a lot of guys in the NFL that come from that small school. And I imagine they're going to have the inside track on him. So,
yeah, for sure. And I mean, the first name I think of when I hear John Carroll is London Fletcher,
right.
the all-time great linebacker.
And Don Shula started the whole thing with John Carroll.
And obviously the
51.
whole, the Shula dynasty, if you will, started at John Carroll. But Christian, I'll throw it to you. Matt brought up Ted Hurst, who's another for sure standout this week in Mobile. So if you want to talk about him, Montgomery, or any other potential small school guys that stood out to you this week as well.
Yeah, let me just piggyback on what you guys have all said. And you all are exactly right. And we saw, a few years ago, Quinn Miners came out of nowhere, Wisconsin Whitewater. All of a sudden, is he the best guard? And correct me if I'm wrong, he was a top 100 pick, if I remember correctly. But yeah, we've seen it before. It's these small school guys come out of nowhere, they make an impression, in all-star environments and go on to be really good players. But the guy who stood out to me this week was Bud Clark. Talk about a ball hawk. That guy covers a lot of ground. He's got great instincts. He reacts quick, and is physical at challenging the catch point and making a play. I mean, just left and right, especially the last 2 days, he was everywhere making plays.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Bud Clark, and I've heard Kyle Lewis and Jacob Rodriguez also, just in terms of that back seven, there are a couple guys who really took this opportunity to stand out. And, it's both, you also have to consider the other side of that, right? Which this is probably one of the worst QB classes we've ever seen. Maybe two of these guys get drafted that are at the Senior Bowl. These guys, they're not great. But they're really taking advantage of that on the kind of coverage side of this. Jacob Rodriguez making some impact plays over the past few days, as well as, like you mentioned, Bud Clark. And I hear Kyle Lewis looks great down there.
Well, so let's talk about the QBs, right? Because I think we should begin a conversation in a weak QB class. EJ, what's your take on the quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl? Any winners, or did they just reinforce what you already thought?
So I guess you could say Garrett Nussmeier is a winner just because you can see he's back healthy and throwing the ball again. You see he's got a little bit of the velocity back that he had before all the injuries and before the dysfunction at LSU. So it's good to see him back and healthy again. The best thing about Nussmeier is his command of the offense. We all know his story, son of a quarterbacks coach. So he has the quarterback skill set down. Like he has the quick reads, the processing ability. He had all of that down. He's not the biggest guy you would want. What he measured in at like 6'1", 202. Not the biggest size, not the fastest guy, but he's a guy. He's showing he's a guy that can run your offense. I don't think he's going to be he's not going to be a high draft pick or anything like that. But somebody's going to bring him in and be a backup, and he may have to fight for his job later on down the line if he wants to be a starter. But I think it's a win for him just showing up, just being healthy. You look at a guy like Taylor Green, pretty much what you saw at the Senior Bowl is what you saw on his film. You see a very big, very talented, very strong arm, very athletic quarterback but you get a mixed bag when it comes to as a processor, as a decision maker. Because I mean, just on day two, just like two, I think they was almost back-to-back plays where we all saw the bomb to Malachi Fields, the other guy who had a good Senior Bowl, Malachi Fields. But we saw the bomb to Malachi Fields. You see the arm talent, you see the mobility in the pocket, you see the big play ability. But then again, you see the naked bootleg where he throws the interception, where like that's just a bad decision there. So that's more of the same with Taylor Green. He's gonna be a project at the next level. He's gonna be like your boom or bust type of guy. Somebody's definitely gonna take a chance on him. You didn't see a whole lot from guys like Sawyer Robertson, who I like. Other guys like Cole Payton, who also I like. I think they'll get drafted later on in the draft, but none of these quarterbacks are going into the NFL with a team with a plan for them to be a starter. They're going to go in as backup. They're going to go in as cheap backups or developmental projects, and we're going to see where we go from there.
Yeah, I think Taylor Green is a guy that I really like coming into this event, not as much as a starter, like you said, but really as that depth quarterback that needs some time to learn. He's athletically so gifted. I mean, all of the intangible tools you could want for a quarterback, being 6'6" with his size. We watched him rip a ball like 60 yards downfield just effortlessly, like all the arm talent there. There's a ton of upside there, and I think he's getting a little bit of the Anthony Richardson treatment where people have a bit of a sour taste from quarterbacks that are big, athletic, and freaky in that way. But he's also on the older side, so it's a little bit different. But Green has those intangible tools that you look for, and in a draft class where quarterbacks are weak, I think we'll see guys like Taylor Green, maybe Drew Aller, and other guys that have the size and the arm talent, like maybe get a little bit more attention from draft scouts simply just because of size and intangible traits that they think they may be able to gamble on.
Yeah, and I mean, to that comment in the chat there, that throw was impressive. It was really just a flick of the wrist. Like you look back, it looked like he barely even cocked back to throw that thing. But to go back to a comment earlier in the chat there from Ryan Sparks, where he said there'll still be like 10 QBs drafted. I've heard a number of analysts project that, they think this could be a least QBs drafted ever type of class, which the lowest we've seen ever is back in 1955. There were 6 QBs drafted. And then in the modern era, 2015, there were 7 QBs drafted. I'm wondering what some of you guys think. Do you think that we'll be talking about the least QBs drafted type of class?
So that 85 draft first, I'll fill in, right? So I'm probably the elder statesman on the podcast, but I remember the 1985 draft because the discussion in that draft was, should the Bills take Bruce Smith or Doug Flutie number 1 overall? Right? So I'm old enough to remember that. But that was also, I believe, the USFL. So that draft, so one of the reasons that not a lot of QBs went is that the USFL had already plucked like Steve Young and a lot of other guys, right? There was a reason that draft was low. But I think part of the reason that few QBs will go, it's because of the number of QBs that went back. Right? Because teams don't draft quarterbacks every year, right? You're going to draft one like once every 5 years. So you're probably just punting. You're probably going to punt a year if your team needs a QB and you're not the Raiders.
I think it's possible.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's possible we see some teams take like 7th round shots just at the end. And obviously those are going to count as drafted quarterbacks, but they're getting the same amount of a chance as a UDFA, but they kind of just want to have that locked in contract guaranteed that you get them. I think it's kind of like how sometimes we see teams trade up into the 1st round because they want that 5th year of contract, 5th years of eligibility. I'm so sick of college. But coming into the 7th round there and picking at the end of the 7th round just so you get your guy, I think we may see some quarterbacks that teams are afraid are going to slip as to UDFAs and just go and grab a guy that they think could either be a depth guy for the future or something like that.
Yeah. EJ, you wanted to add something in on that?
Yeah. Steve had a question where he said, what was the best part of that throw from Taylor Green to Justin Fields not Justin Fields. Malachi Fields.
Definitely not Justin Fields.
Not throwing that.
No.
Justin Fields on his way to being a receiver, so you never
Yeah,
really know.
exactly. But yeah, I would say Fields had the better part of that play. He really laid out for it. Just Fields as a wide receiver, I think he really impressed me. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in his class at the catch point. Like, he really snatches the ball out of the air. He's really strong at the catch point. What he is, I mean, where he's going to win, I don't think he's going to run by anybody. If he runs his 40, I think it's going to be in the mid to high 4.5s at best. But he has an amount of short area quickness where he can get to the top of the stem and he can lose guys there. That's how he gets his separation. That's how he gets off the line of scrimmage. But if he's going to win vertically, it's going to be in a contested catch situation. And I think he's like a 70-30 guy as far as contested catch situations go. But like, I think he's going to be a very, very productive receiver at the next level. I think this is a big win for him at the Senior Bowl.
I was actually how he able to create separation in the team drills. I mean, there were times where he was getting 3-4 yards of separation. That just it makes it so much easier for a quarterback when you have that big a target with his catch radius and who's able to create separation on corners. But I got my board pulled. Going back to the quarterbacks and how many could be drafted, I've got my board pulled up. I've got 10 that I think are almost locks to get drafted this year, and probably 4 or 5 of them maybe like what Matt said, or maybe 7th round flyers that teams want to get in the building and get under contract.
I think really quick to go to Fields, because I know Randy wanted to talk about him. We were talking about him earlier, just going back and forth in the chat about, what Fields brings. And similar to how I was saying Taylor Green is kind of getting the Anthony Richardson treatment, I'm kind of afraid that somebody like Malachi Fields is going to get the Keon Coleman treatment, where analysts and GMs are sick of guys that like come in and they may not separate. Yeah, they're not done even. So that organization is a dumpster fire right now. But the way that he goes up and catches the ball at the catch point, one of these like highlight play receivers with unbelievable hands and a big catch radius, and that like basketball style of receiver where it's just go up and get it, go get a rebound. Malachi Fields is that type of guy, but I think people also saw that in Keon Coleman, and he did not do the things that he did at college at the NFL level. And whether that's the Bills' fault, whether that's his fault, whether that's said, there's many people to blame in there. But
so we did a Buffalo Bills wide receiver podcast on Tuesdays. We did like, what does the wide receiver room look like and stuff like that. And one of the things that we talked about specifically was contested catch. If that's your dominant trait, that doesn't translate consistently college to the NFL.
For sure.
And it's like an inconsistent thing. So it's okay that you win that way, but it's difficult to make a living winning that way.
Yeah, I think that was what I was talking about with Randy. Kind of wanted to let him chime in on what he thinks makes those two guys different.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think specific to the play that Steve was referencing there, I think that Fields was the kind of the better half of that, just due to the ball tracking, right? Like, obviously the throw was off target. He has to track this thing down 50, 55, 60 yards downfield, lay out for it. Like, it was an amazing catch, more than it was a great throw. It was a good throw in that it showed off arm talent, but it wasn't a great throw, and like, it was on point and, where the receiver needed to catch it. So certainly it leans towards Fields as to what was the more impressive half of that play. But I've been on Fields since early in this process. I think Jim can attest. I was taking Fields in the second round of Patriots mock drafts like 3 weeks ago, a month ago. And now he's getting talked about as a top 50 prospect by a lot of people. I'm not sure he'll eventually go top 50. I think probably 50 to 100. But I do think, he's that contested catch guy like you guys talked about. I think he's got a little bit more shimmy and shake to him than people kind of realize. I think if you go back and watch that Virginia tape, he was getting a lot of screen passes. He was getting a lot of like tosses to the side where he had to create after he caught that ball. I think he kind of fit into the Notre Dame offense, and I don't know which side of that to blame. I don't know if it's the quarterback or just the offensive scheme or him just fitting into a new environment. But I think he fit into the Notre Dame offense a little bit slowly. And we kind of didn't see the sort of production this year at Notre Dame like we had similar the past couple of seasons at Virginia. But I'm really excited about him as a prospect, just the tools, the size, and also when he doesn't have the ball in his hand, the impact he can make on the field in terms of run blocking or blocking for other receivers who have caught the ball behind him.
He might be the best receiver blocker in the class.
Yeah, it's
Honestly,
either him or
it is.
Denzel Boston.
He has a wicked stiff arm too when he has the ball in his hands.
Yeah. Well, he's not. He's a rocked up 220, man. It's not. There's not a lot of fat on that guy.
Right.
So, Anthony, when you were looking at the linemen in Mobile, offensive line or defensive line, do you feel stronger about one group or the other?
Defensive. It's not even not there's no contest. Yeah, look, I think the offensive linemen, even without Ruben Bain, David Bailey, and Akeem Mesidor not being there, this offensive lineman group had their work cut out for them. Lee Hunter, Calvin Banks, Caleb Banks. I don't know why I said Kelvin Banks. Caleb Banks, Zion Young, Derek Moore, Romello Height. This defensive line class is loaded. And
They even flew Daryl Jackson Jr. in halfway through.
Yeah, and Tyree West. But no, the offensive linemen had their work cut out for them, and I think some of them stood out. I think the winner of the offensive lineman is probably Max Ihenachor, the tackle from Arizona State. I think over 3 days he looked the most like an NFL starting tackle. Someone that definitely needs a little more investment when he gets to the league, but the tools are there, the athleticism is there for a guy who's barely played football. And I've talked about Ihenachor on this podcast before, but for somebody who has as little football experience as he has relative to other people in this class, the tools are there to be a really good NFL left tackle. I would throw out Sam Hecht, the center from Kansas State. Really solid week for him. He's not going to dominate in terms of just raw power, but he is so fundamentally sound, moves well, can block well out in space. He had a really solid week. And one more offensive lineman I would throw out, Logan Taylor, the offensive lineman, I'll say, from Boston College. He's played every offensive line position except center. He played, I think he took snaps at both tackle and guard, but primarily guard this week, which is probably where he winds up in the NFL. But another one, solid technique and fundamentals, good hand placement. He handled Caleb Banks even pretty well on one rep. So those were the three that stood out to me. Of those, I think Ihenachor is probably the only one that even has a chance at being a first rounder. The other two are probably like late day 2, early day 3 kind of guys. But
yeah, so
three of them
let's
stood
talk
out.
about Logan Taylor from Boston College for a little bit, because when we covered him on the channel, when we did the scouting reports, the grades weren't the same. Not everybody saw Logan Taylor the same way. So we've got 5 people here to kind of compare notes with. EJ, where are you on Logan Taylor from Boston College? Guard, tackle, how high is he on your board?
I think he's a guard. Got him like right now as more of a day 3 type of guy. He didn't really stand out to me a whole lot during this Senior Bowl. I still got to circle back around and do some more work on him. But I got him as a guard. I think he has necessary power. My whole thing with offensive linemen is I'm looking at the power first and foremost. Can you move guys against their will? I think he has a little bit of that. I think he has a little bit of a technique, but he's a guy I'll give an incomplete grade on just because I haven't watched enough of him to give a really strong grade on him. But I'll circle back around to him.
So, Christian, how about you? Logan Taylor from Boston College.
Yeah, I think I agree with Anthony. Technically sound. I've got him early day 3. One rep today, I noticed that that he didn't really stand out good or bad until the rep against Rayshon Benny at the goal line. He got caught lunging, completely whiffed, and Benny got through in the backfield and stuffed. I believe it was Kalon Black who was on the goal line and got stuffed. So like fundamentally sound, but that was a bad rep. But that was the only play that really jumped out to me. But yeah, I've got him early day 3 with some potential, and I've got him as a guard.
And Matt, how about you, Logan Taylor, Boston College?
I watched a good bit of Boston College this year, especially looking for Jude Bowery on the other side. But Logan Taylor has been, like you guys said, technically sound. He has the athletic traits again at 6'6". He kind of has the size to be a tackle, but I don't know that he's going to move well enough to stay at tackle. At this Senior Bowl, we got a lot of guys that are guards posing as tackles, I think a lot of people can agree that there's like maybe 70% of the tackles that are playing down there are going to be moved to guard at the NFL level. And I think Taylor's one of those guys, but I think he also will have to add some weight if he's going to shift over to guard. So as of right now, I have him listed as a tackle because I haven't seen him add that weight and move to guard. And I don't know that at 6'6", 305, he's going to find a lot of success anchoring himself on the interior of the offensive line as a guard. But I think that is where he inevitably ends up, but they're going to have to add some bulk with him and work on him and getting his hips low and playing down at that level.
Yeah, and Randy, I know that you live and have gone to several Boston College games. I believe that's pretty close to you, right? So do you want to comment? I thought you've commented on Boston College players on other podcasts.
No, I just a little bit, just in terms of like local, local interest, keep it, et cetera. I think that there is a Bill O'Brien coaching there. It's kind of a small circle of guys who know each other, coaching the Patriots, coaching the BC Eagles. And, that's kind of my interest there. But no, I don't actually really have much of a take on Logan Taylor, to be honest. I was interested in circling back around to Max Ankor. Is that how we're saying?
Right. Anthony, do we have a clarification on how to say it?
Of all the things I accomplished in Mobile this week, one of them was not figuring out how to say this name correctly. I think it is Iheanacho.
Okay. So anyway,
that's what I'm going with.
My question about him is actually the similar question about Markel Bell. Both these guys, to me, have like a basketball player build. Now, I know Max is, and I'm just going to call him Max because I'm not going to do the whole last name thing. But I know Max was a basketball player and didn't actually even start playing football until about 2021 when he went JUCO and kind of developed some technique and stuff there. But my question is, a lot of times there's value in being there and actually getting eyes on these guys and being able to kind of tell things that we can't, right? Like anybody can watch tape, anybody can watch games. In person, when you see these guys, like Max, Max talked in an interview about getting up to the weight he's at now and said something like, hopefully no more. And I've heard questions about how he carries his weight and that sort of thing. And I've heard, skinny ankles, kind of skinny legs. Is he going to be able to hold up long term in the NFL under power rushers and stuff like that? And I have similar questions about Markel Bell, who is just the guy is all legs up until like 5 feet, right? And he's carrying a lot of weight. He's very top heavy. We saw him get just trucked by Derek Moore on day one. Now, just because Markel Bell has a family to feed also, I will follow that up with saying he came back with another rep and in which he held off Derek Moore. So, just being fair, you should look that one up too if you look up the first one, but the first one's more fun. What do you think about how these guys carry themselves and how these guys carry that weight? Are they just adding on an unnecessary weight? Is it helpful? Are they going to be able to hold up? Are they going to lose the leverage battle a lot? What do you think? Just seeing them in person.
So specifically on Max and Markel, neither one visibly looked like they were carrying bad weight. As sort of a reference point, Lee Hunter, for example, is a guy who I not that obviously he had a fantastic week, but he looked like somebody that is a little more wide than maybe you'd like. But I didn't get that with Bell. And Bell, remember too, is 6'9", so like he's 348 pounds, I think it was. But he's so tall that he doesn't really look 348 pounds, so to speak. But no, I don't have any issue with I don't think their problems are with, carrying bad weight or any sort of like struggling with, movement. I think Markel Bell's problem is he just is always constantly going to lose leverage battles, and guys are going to get under his pads just because of how tall he is, and I think he has flexibility issues. But I don't see a bad weight problem. Caden Proctor, I think, is actually a better example. He's a guy that needs to, I think, lose bad weight that he is carrying. And obviously he wasn't at the Senior Bowl, but he feels like a player that I think there's a weight discussion to be had. Whereas with Bell and Ethan Achor, and actually I think Ethan Achor kind of trimmed a bit because I think he was listed like 330, and then his weight at the Senior Bowl was like 320 something, like 325.
225.
So he was, which might have been what he was all along. But I think 6'6", 325 and 6'9", 348 is fine. I mean, that's a very much like a DeJuan Jones build. But even that, I don't see, the way that DeJuan Jones was carrying bad weight. I don't see that as much with Bell.
I wanted to jump in really quick because these offensive tackles I think we're talking about, there are three guys down there that I think are the really big, athletic, clear offensive tackles, which are, Bell, who is going to have to stay out there at 6'9", 345, 350. And it does kind of look like a lot of that weight is on the top. And like you said, guys are going to get into his pads. They may be able to bend around him. It's hard to get low at that size. I had not sure. That's just what I Googled. I had not sure, whatever. He is a bit stockier, but again, that lack of experience playing football also is, I think, going to translate with how he carries the weight. He's saying like, hopefully no more. He also has only been playing football for 5-6 years now. Like, this is a guy who has plenty of time and room to kind of fill in to that football frame and develop himself. And the last guy I wanted to mention that I've been talking about, and I am a huge fan of, and I kind of want to hear what other people say, is Demetrius Crownover out of Texas A&M, who at right tackle I thought looked excellent at the Senior Bowl. And we also had somebody comment about Jennings Dunker, who had a couple of faulty reps, but then really bounced back later on. I thought he also looked good at a variety of spots. When he moved into guard, I thought he looked a little bit better, but also may still need to add some bulk to stay in there. But again, I want to go back to Demetrius Crownover, who just looked like he was eating edge rushers. Like, his arms are so long, and he would just engulf guys off the edge. I was a huge fan of him coming out of Texas A&M. I have him graded in my top 50, which may be higher than a lot of other people. I'm a big fan of his, and I think that in a draft class that is thin in general, a guy with his athletic traits and serious strength, being 330, 6'7", I was very impressed with how he stood up to some of the best competition in the nation.
Well, and he's got those arms that are nearly 36 inches too, right? It's like a $10 Uber ride to get around him. It's crazy. He'd some really, really good reps against Romello Height out there too.
I need to get some of those Uber coupons if your Uber rides are only $10.
Seriously.
EJ, where are you on Chris McClellan right now?
He did all right. He got a little bit of pass rush ability. I like him more as when you saw him on that defensive line, you saw Zion Young, you saw Damian Wilson, who's not in this draft, but you saw some pass rush ability, you saw some quick hands, you saw some get off from him. That's what I like. I like to get off at that size, and I think he's got a swim move that I saw. He got a swim move where he can knife in as a 3 technique. I would play him anywhere from a 0-0 shade, 1 technique. Let him penetrate some gaps. So I think he did some upside with that guy.
And McClellan is a man-sized tackle too.
Yeah, exactly. He's huge. That's one thing we're seeing. Like these defensive tackles, they're starting to move up these boards. They're these guys are big. They're and they can move. And real quick to piggyback off the offensive tackles, Hanacor and Demetrius Crownover. What I liked about them was the way they were. I thought they was the best two at dropping their anchor. You see guys with their offensive defense line one-on-ones, guys were getting pushed back into other people, getting pushed back into the crowd and fighting through it. These guys were stopping halfway through and dropping their anchor, and that defensive end or the defensive tackle was going nowhere. Those two guys, they're bigger guys, but you saw the footwork to match speed on the outside. You saw the anchor to deal with the bull rush. That's like a foundation of what they can do at the next level. You can just straight build off of that because Hanacor, he's got to work with his hands, like with replacing hands and with his aiming point when he's shooting his hands. But they both are able to withstand a bull rush. Crownover specifically, he used a double underhooks technique where you're taking on the bull rush and you're directing the momentum up. So and that pretty much just stifles the momentum of the defensive player. So I like the way he had that. A lot of times he would like bear hug guys. I don't want to see that a whole lot. Just use your arm length. Don't let them get into your chest. But he's a guy like once they got you. You're not going anywhere. So I like the grip strength and I like the power from those two.
He did have hands on the outside quite a bit, which was my biggest, I think, concern that I listed for him as a big weakness of his and something I'll have to work on because there are NFL edge rushers that are going to take advantage of that and force him into holds. And you don't want a penalized guy. And other people can feel free to correct me if they didn't see this on film, but you don't see guys that are 6'7", 330 pounds and can sink their hips and just stop the way that Demetrius Crownover does. That Texas A&M offensive line was filled with big dudes. I mean, Armaj Reed Adams is another massive man, but the way it was just completely different on that offensive line. I felt like I could clearly see a difference with the athleticism of Crownover to sink down into his stance and just simply stop. It was like there's no bull rushing through that guy. And so the question was coming into this, I think, how he's going to handle speed rush. And handling somebody like Romello Height and getting your hands around and, even though he has some of that outside stuff, just engulfing players like that is so impressive to me.
The speed rushers, and I noticed this against Height a couple times, but Height was able to swipe back across his body and and win inside. And that could be a problem when he gets to the NFL. I wasn't near as impressed with Crownover as a lot of people were, but you're right. The traits just jump off the screen. The length, the ability to drop his anchor. Once he gets his hands on you, it's over. Consider that a win for him. But the speed rushers are going to give him a problem if he lets them get back across his body, swipe across his face, and get back inside on him.
Yeah, I agree, and mentioning Romello Height, and I led with this. Like, I think overall the offensive tackles just had a lot to deal with the edge rushers. I want to bring up, if we're going to pivot to D-line, Nadame, I don't know, Tucker from Western Michigan.
Bang the drum, man.
I genuinely think he had the best week of all of these uber talented edges, and I'm not necessarily saying that he's now the highest ranked of all the guys that were there, but he just felt like every day was pretty consistently winning in a variety of ways. Could win with speed to power, winning with just bend, winning with cross chops, his ability to cross face on guys. Like, he was showing an arsenal. He was showing, again, that speed to power. He really impressed me. And this also goes back to we were talking about before with like smaller school guys in general. This is the opportunity for small school guys to show they can stack up with the big bad boys of the SEC and the Big Ten and whatever. And Tucker did that. So I can send it over to EJ if you have thoughts on Tucker and other edge rushers that stood out to you.
Tucker, like, he was cooking on in team drill day 2. like I think they had to take him out because he was killing that right tackle. They couldn't even get a playoff. Because I was looking at the team, Joe. I'm like, oh, that's a sack. Oh, that's a sack too. But like he was cooking. He's somebody I had not watched before. But when my first exposure to it was here at the Senior Bowl, and like this change of direction, the speed, the get off. That's where he's a problem at. So I envision him as out front defense, have him rushing off the edge as an outside linebacker. That's where he's going to win.
So EJ, is he going to be on the Fangio defense episode that you're doing next week?
I could put him in there. He could fit in there. I could toss him in.
I hope
there.
he drops into coverage some this on Saturday.
Yeah. So we see.
I love Ndame Tucker, and I'm banging the drum on this guy, and I've been doing it for a little while. Houston made the biggest mistake this offseason. Their biggest mistake was letting this kid out of the facility. I think that's honestly the biggest concern with him too. And when I first met all of you guys, I think something I put out there was like, what do you guys think about this guy? Because I was wondering if I was missing something. Because I watched the film of him at Western Michigan, and it is a smaller school. He's not going up against, this elite talent, but he was killing dudes. Like, you couldn't block him. He's just such a great athlete. I feel like that's a consistent trend that we're seeing here, especially in a draft that I think the consensus is that it's a relatively weaker draft class. A lot of guys that are just serious athletes. Tucker led the nation in sacks. He was tied with David Bailey. Like, this is a dude who seriously knows how to get to the quarterback, seriously knows how to rush the passer. I completely agree with EJ that he fits best in the odd front, bit of like an outside linebacker. He is relatively stocky, and I think he does have the potential to drop into coverage some. But I love Tucker. I have him as the top 10 edge rusher in this draft, and I'm going to stand by that for a very long time because I really, really think that he has the skills to be a successful NFL player.
Now, if I could just stick on the D line, but move over a little bit, because we've got some big guys on that side of the ball too, right? Caleb Banks out of Florida. This is a guy, limited action this year, just not a lot of recent tape to study, but 2024, he was dominant. He's a guy who's, he's super physical. He's got all those athletic traits and stuff, but sometimes he's a little bit lost on the football field too. He blows through that offensive line, and the running back just waltzes right past him. In settings like this, it's kind of really built for a guy like that. I thought day one he was a little bit underwhelming, but day two I'm watching clips of him literally throwing offensive linemen around. I'm wondering what all you guys think about, because coming into this season, I was of the mind that he could challenge Peter Woods to be a top defensive tackle in this class. Obviously, injuries kind of waylaid that a little bit, but I still think we could see him the middle back end of the first round, because it's just physical traits and bodies like that. 35 inches, 6'6", 330. And like I said, he was literally just throwing offensive linemen around down there in Mobile. What do you guys think of his ceiling there?
Yeah, so
what
do you think of Caleb Banks?
I'm just going to throw in super quick. I just want to say this, like, since I'm here and I was watching him on the field. Absolutely right. Day one, underwhelmed. Got locked up multiple times, and everybody was kind of collectively like, oh, I guess, like, he's not as good as we kind of hoped he would be. Yesterday and today, he not only was better, he was louder. He was jawing at pretty much everybody, talking a lot of shit, saying things that I cannot repeat here. He was pissed off after day one, and he played like it, and it was absolutely like, oh no, he's legit. Like we all, again, the collective feeling of like, oh no, Caleb Banks is actually a really good football player. So yeah, I wanted to get that out. Like, he played pissed off, and it showed in the past 2 days. And you could hear him, and it was great entertainment as well. But if anyone has more substantial thoughts on him,
so Christian, what do you think of Caleb Banks, and then what did you think of Colton Hood?
So I actually had I just pulled up my last big board, and I had Banks my 57th rated player just because the lack of tape from this season and play from other defensive linemen such as Lee Hunter, Dominic Orange. There's a lot of uncertainty, and Banks needed to have a big week this week. He will not be that low for my next board. He'll be back in my top 30. Because, I mean, he was a problem yesterday. He stacked another good day today, and you could tell he's confident with him. John at offensive lineman, you can tell he's got that fire, and he's back to having that confidence. And the flashes of him, like he's got elite level flashes where he can wreck a game wide open. And I'll follow up with that and transition to Colton Hood. Really good player. He's so patient. It was day one. I think it was against Tyron Montgomery actually, where it might have been Reggie Virgil. But it was a one-on-one down the sideline, and he knows Virgil's got the speed, but he stayed patient in his technique, pivoted his hips, and stay with him stride for stride in the end zone and force an incompletion. So I like Hood a lot.
EJ, where are you on Colton Hood right now?
Yeah, I think he's very technically sound. I want to see how he tests at the combine, but I think he's technically sound. He's very patient. He can play in man, he can play off man, he can play some zone. When I want to ask everybody else, because I heard from some other guys that was down there at Mobile, and they questioned Colton Hood's like movement ability, his change of direction, his quickness, his lateral quickness, and they said is not what they thought it would be. So I'm wondering, did you guys see any of that, and how do you feel about how Colton Hood moves?
I mean, I could tell you, I saw it on his rep day one against Tyron Montgomery from John Carroll, where he got basically cooked on a curl route by Montgomery. And overall, yeah, I think there were times where he kind of, was a little late to react, or just didn't have that elite change of direction that you'd hope for. I always felt like, though, that kind of his best was, in man coverage, being able to play the ball in the air, working down the field. That always kind of felt like his bread and butter, so to speak. So I wouldn't, I didn't watch him this week and think like, oh man, he's a lot worse than I thought he was. I don't think he had a particularly great week. It was sort of an up and down kind of week for him. I think he got better on day two compared to day one. And then I didn't really even notice him that much, to be honest. Or no, actually, I didn't notice him because he was on the sideline. I just remembered he was in street clothes. So, he only had 2 days worth of practice. I think day two was better than day one. But yeah, I don't think it dramatically altered what I thought of him. I still think he's a potential first rounder. I will probably have him as like a day two guy. But if the league took him like back end of round one, I wouldn't be surprised. But Randy, if you've got more thoughts on Colton Hood.
Yeah, well, I do have a quick question on him. Is that two questions really. Number one, do you feel like size is an issue for him? Because I know I've heard other guys talk about guys like Malik Muhammad that are a little too small for the outside, and Colton Hood came in just at almost the same exact measurements as Malik Muhammad. You see he's just under 6 foot. It's like 187, something like that. He's not super small like a Chandler Rivers or a D'Angelo Pons, but he's not a big guy either. And then I was curious, like, it strikes me watching all these reps down there year after year, these defensive backs would rather commit a penalty than get beat. So they all get really, really grabby. So it can kind of be hard to evaluate them on these drills. I wonder how you felt, like if you felt like Hood was, one of those guys that's a little handsy, or one of those guys that relied more on his skill and talent. And that's why occasionally he was getting beat by guys like Tyron Montgomery and so forth.
Yeah, I didn't get a handsy, grabby vibe from him. I also just think, and I'm sure you know this, most people know this, but these drills tend to inherently favor the wide receiver, just always. So corners are doing the best they can to keep up with these one-on-one situations where they're honestly pretty much kind of set up to fail, and then when they do well, it's like, oh wow. I'd keep that in mind too. But no, I didn't get. I think the size thing too with him with Hood, it's not so much like it doesn't feel like he's getting physically, manhandled. Like I don't see him getting like pushed off the line of scrimmage and not
Like
being able
overmatched.
to hang. Yeah, I don't get that. Like I'll tell you, like his teammate Jalen McMurray, who is listed only 7 pounds lighter than him, but he feels like a guy that I felt was getting a little like he can't handle bigger wide receivers. And I felt that also when I was watching him this year. But Hood, I don't think has as much of that problem. I was a little surprised that he only was 186. But I don't see it as like a huge problem with him. Again, like I think his game is, he can run with just about anybody, and he'll be able to, play the ball in the air well. He's got the ball skills that you want. So that'll be kind of his game. But
Nope.
if there's
Yeah.
go ahead.
Could I just ask you about a guy who I think has been a bit of a disappointment this week, and I think everybody will probably agree with me, really all year, Nicholas Singleton. I mean, his teammate Katron Allen really stepped up this year, kind of carried that team offensively. Didn't carry him to, the promised land or anything, but he didn't quit. And I think it looked to me like Nicholas Singleton kind of threw in the towel on the season. And I'm wondering what the buzz is down there in Mobile, because I know he's been underwhelming is probably the most kind word that I could come up with about his performance down there thus far. I don't know if anything changed on day 3 yet. But I'm wondering what the buzz is in team circles and kind of personnel and the people who might know as to what is going on with this kid. Is he not healthy? Has he just kind of thrown in the towel and lost interest? What's the deal with Nicholas Singleton in your estimation, Anthony?
I mean it's tough to know for sure, but it certainly feels like he kind of just one, I don't think he ever really improved in terms of just his pure, as a runner. And we can point to the obvious issues that Penn State had all season. But then when you see, well, Katron Allen produced, I think he ran for over 1,000 yards this year. So it wasn't a, Penn State problem for him. I think Singleton, I think the issue is he just isn't as natural a runner as we kind of hoped he could develop into. He still misses holes that open up, tries to bounce things outside when he doesn't need to, instead of kind of just put his foot in the ground and making a cut inside. He doesn't, he misses those run lanes. He struggles for a guy who's so big. He doesn't really like break tackles well, or I should say run through contact well. Like he can make a guy miss kind of, but you would want somebody who's over 220 pounds to be able to kind of bully people, and he didn't really do that this year. I've said now, like, and I was a guy who I thought Nick Singleton could be RB1. He's not, but I see him as potentially like an high-end third down back in the NFL. Like I think he's still arguably the best receiving back in college football. Like he has that to his name, and he's still a big body. So he's
That's
I think
almost
he's still off for
identical to
something.
what Stephen Shaw said on their running back show the hour before this.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a place for it. It's just obviously not even remotely close to what I and other people, kind of hoped he would develop into. Christian, if you want to jump in on Singleton there.
Yeah, so like some different out of different body types, like someone like a Shane Vereen, who a really good third down back, could provide value on special teams as a return man. It may just be what his role is, and you give him 5-6 carries a game. But there was one rep on day one where you can physically on the telecast see the hole created by the O-line, and for whoever he just bounced outside and resulted in a 2-yard loss. So yeah, he never really took the. I have him in my preseason top 50. I was really high on his raw talent entering the season, but just never really showed the growth as a runner. And if you obviously if you want to have early down value, no matter how talented you are, how gifted you are athletically as a receiver, you can't identify holes and the cutback lanes. That's gonna diminish your early down value and limit your ceiling.
Yeah,
I
so
actually thought he took a step back.
Yeah, so Matt, buy or sell this take. The idea of Nick Singleton is better than Nick Singleton as he exists now.
I mean, yeah, I actually feel like he got worse. I don't say that lightly, but I felt like last year I thought he should have come out and declared for the draft. I thought Katron Allen should have as well. They both decided to return. But Singleton, I feel like, was his vision was never great out of the backfield, but I felt like he was more confident in himself to hit the gaps. And as Sam Darnold would say, it feels like he's seeing ghosts. Like there is nobody in the lane and he is just missing it. And that's not a problem that I saw from him in the past. And I still want to like Nick Singleton because what I remember from 2024 was something that got me very excited. But what I see now is completely different.
So, Christian, any running backs at the Senior Bowl stand out to you as having a good week?
Mike Washington. He'll probably be my top 3. He might be my third running back after this is all said and done. He might run 4.4, may even get into the 4.3s at the combine. I'll be curious to see what he runs. But at 220, he can move, compact runner, powerful on the goal line. It would not shock me if he becomes a three down back at the next level.
About the only position we haven't touched on are the tight ends. Matt, any tight ends that you think are winners and losers for Mobile?
Oh, I'm blanking on a name right now, and I'm scrolling. But the Utah
Let me
tight
throw
end,
one. Sam Roush from Stanford. Yep. Okay, that kid, he can catch, he can block, he can kind of do it all. I think he's going to be a day 2 pick. Like maybe 3rd round, something like that. I think he could be an immediate contributor.
very good all around player.
NFL. Yeah, I mean he's a guy who you had some questions about because he's had such bad quarterback play at Stanford. But he showed up here. He showed that he could make catches. He showed that he's a good blocker. I think he's made some money for himself this week.
And Dallin Bentley made a hell of a catch today, if I remember right. But he made a heck of a play. And if I can, I'll let you guys go on.
I'll just add, I completely agree with Randy. I think Sam Roush was easy tight end 1 here and could honestly I don't even think top 50 is like that crazy for him at this point. I think he's proving that he checks like every box, can block, can run routes down the field, can win in soft zone spots. Ideal size, he's like 6'5", 260. He is like a much more, in my opinion, a much more complete tight end than I think a lot of the guys that we've talked about for a majority of this draft cycle. I will throw out one other quick name. I'm gonna mess it up again, but I'm gonna make an attempt. Nate Burkhercher, whatever. Texas A&M. A lot of the chatter with him, myself included, was that he could be like the next Jackson Hawes, where like he could be, you draft him late day 3, and you get him as like your tight end 3, and he thrives in these like 12 and 13 personnel heavy run concept looks. He made some nice grabs in the passing game. One in particular it was the last rep of, I think, day 2, where it was him and I honestly forget who he was lined up with, but it was a 1-on-1 and Cole Payton throws the ball, and it's like right over the defender's helmet, and Kershaw just sticks his hands out and grabs the ball with his hands and brings it in for a nice contested catch. He's got, like, there are some receiving chops there that I Randy just talked about Stanford's quarterback problems. Texas A&M had some quarterback problems too, getting guys the football consistently. I think Burke Hersher, especially on a team with Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion too. So I think Burke Hersher is a sneaky, probably still, in that mid to late day 3 range. But I will not be surprised if he can make some noise when he gets to the league, and we're kind of sleeping on his abilities. But EJ, if you had I don't know if you had other tight ends you wanted to mention.
Sam Roush. I think he was like the most complete package at tight end. Tanner Koziel, I think on day 3 in red zone, he looked good. You saw him climb the ladder, which is what he does. He's gonna make that. He's gonna climb the ladder for catches. He's a good receiver. I thought the Ohio State guy Kekmerick, I think he held his own as a blocker in those one-on-ones. Still, I think that's going to be what he is at the next league.
That's
more
what
blocker
he does.
More blocker than receiver. But I think he held his own as a blocker, and I think he showed a role for himself at the next level. So that's probably going to get him drafted. But like Sam Roush, he stole the show. He is he's like the complete package. He's your typical Stanford tight end. Like, you look at the lineage of tight ends that Stanford has put out, like, he's right there in that mold. So like he's one of the best tight ends in the class.
Okay, so let's kind of wrap this up here. Let's go like big finish, rapid fire. Hopefully we can kind of go around 2 times. But EJ, I'm going to start with you. Who is the player that you are going to watch next as a result of the Senior Bowl?
All right. And you might want to write his name down, because I don't know if he's in the simulator or not. But a guy, offensive lineman, offensive tackle from Maryland, Alan Heron. He held his own at left tackle. He's another guy where he could drop his anchor and he could stop a bull rush. He used his hands pretty well, which is different from when you pull up his tape against Michigan. You can see Derek Moore, who we didn't talk about, who also had a good Senior Bowl. You can see Derek Moore running him over, but you can see now he's gotten a little bit better with his technique. He's gotten a little bit better with his hands, specifically his hand placement, where he's shooting to the chest, not shooting to the shoulders. So I'm going to go back and look at him. And I'm going to go back and look at Carver Willis. Specifically, I like him as a guard. He's another guy. He held his own in one-on-ones. Doesn't have the power that the other guys have, but the technique is there. The footwork is there. The leverage is there. He plays with good leverage. So I'm going to go back there and watch him too.
So Randy, who is the player that you are going to watch the most as a result of the Senior Bowl?
I mean, for me, coming out of this, the guy who got my attention the most, I think, is probably Jeremiah Wright out of Auburn. I thought he had some really good reps, highlighted by that end of practice rep against LT Overton, who, I mean, he's a rival, and Jeremiah Wright finished it off, putting him into the ground. He talked a lot in drills. He really got into things. And I felt like he had some really good reps against some tough interior guys. He seemed like, to me, like he played primarily at right guard there throughout this entire week. And I just thought he looked really good in pass protection. I'd like to look at a lot more of his tape coming out of this week.
He had a really good trap block on, I think, Derek Moore today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Derek Moore is another guy too that it's like you gotta come out of this week at least more curious about him,
He'll
right?
be my
I mean,
top
watching
15.
him plow through Bell and watching him everybody down there, with the exception of Max Ianacor, nobody could handle Derek Moore except Max Ianacor, and that made Derek Moore want to fight him. So he's an intense guy. He's got a lot of power. He's got a good build for this too. 6'3", 255, something in that neighborhood. He impressed me a lot this week too.
So, Anthony, who is the player that you want to go back and either rewatch or watch as a result of the Senior Bowl?
I mean, Tyron Montgomery is probably the cliche answer. I'm gonna actually say Xavier Sori from Arkansas, linebacker. He wowed me, like made me stop in my tracks on multiple reps. One rep in particular during the team session where a run lane opens up, and I forget the running back, but run lane opens up, the running back tries to go through, and Sori just explodes through the gap and would have laid him out if we were doing contact at that point. But he was moving all around the field, making plays in coverage and against the run in team drills. Somebody that I wasn't particularly high on, but I've talked to people and I watched him, and he, like I said, he wowed me on a couple plays. So definitely somebody I want to dive back into.
I don't think Sori even made our linebacker scouting reports list.
I don't think no.
Yeah. So, Matt, how about you? As a result of the Senior Bowl, what player do you want to go back and either update your grade or watch? Who's going to be like the next guy that you go look at?
I'm going to throw out a couple of names. I tried my best to watch as many of the guys from the Senior Bowl before the Senior Bowl so I could kind of get a change of opinion from the Senior Bowl rather than having that be like my first look at them. First, I wanted to say EJ's guy, Alan Heron. He's a great dude. I went to college with him at the University of Maryland, and I had classes with him and worked with him. He's a very talented offensive lineman, clearly as the anchor. I have my concerns some about his lack of experience, you could say. He started at a D2 school, and kind of his movement around in the University of Maryland is not known for offensive linemen for good reason, because we can't develop them. But I think that there is a ways for him to go, but there is a good future for him. And again, he works really hard, and he is a great kid, just a very awesome person. I wanted to go to Randy's guy, Jeremiah Wright. I loved the way that he was talking at the Senior Bowl. I love guys that are confident in themselves. He went up against Caleb Banks, and Caleb Banks, who we were talking about earlier, came back and wanted another rep with him. He put him in the dirt instead, but Wright looked really good in general. I don't think that the NFL is going to make the Deone Walker mistake again with Caleb Banks. And the guy that I wanted to mention that was new is going to be Bo Stevens from Iowa.
Yes.
Iowa offensive linemen is just a guarantee at this point, man. Those dudes, if you're going to draft guys in the trenches and they're from Iowa, that school may not win a ton of football games and they're going to play old school ball, but Bo Stevens is a dog, man. I just watched multiple guys go up against him. When I first watched him, I was kind of concerned about 310, which sounds kind of stupid considering 310 is relatively big, but I was kind of concerned he was going to get pushed back some. But at this Senior Bowl, he has locked up some very, very big dudes. I was really impressed with him. I need to go back and watch him again. I watched him a lot with Jennings Dunker, but I think I paid more attention to Jennings Dunker, and this time I'm going to pay a lot more attention to Bo Stevens.
With the Bo Stevens too, what was really impressive about him is I felt like I saw several reps where he just got beat flat outright, right? But then he came right back.
He recovered. His
and
recovery is unbelievable.
Exactly what he had done wrong. I mean,
Exactly.
when Daryl Jackson Jr. dropped into Mobile, and I say it like they dropped him out of a plane and he just landed there, right? But he bulldozed Bo Stevens that first rep.
Yep.
And it's like Daryl Jackson Jr. knows how to make an entrance, okay? But Bo Stevens wanted to get right back, figured out exactly what he'd done. And he had a habit, it seemed to me, of being able to kind of like slip back and let defenders get like their own momentum work against them, where all of a sudden they're on the ground and he's standing there like, hey,
he didn't do that jump set crap that we see like every single time because the offensive linemen are just slated to lose, so they're jumping at the guys at the line of scrimmage. He did a good job setting back. And even like you said, the second rep he won, but I also felt like even if he lost on the first move, somebody swiped his hands out of the way or kind of got under him and got into his pads, he did a great job anchoring himself and recovering, like making that footwork adjustment to stop himself in his tracks. So I do want to hear what Christian has to say, so I want to move on to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to piggyback on Bo Stevens, it felt like he was getting matched up a lot with Lee Hunter and Daryl Jackson. And when you're matched up with someone who moves like Lee does at that size, and someone like Jackson who has his length, you're gonna have your fair share of losses. But yeah, there was one time where he absolutely planted Lee Hunter in the ground. Yeah, his ups and downs. He had ups and downs, but his ups were really, really good. The two guys I've got my eye, or I'm gonna go back and rewatch, is Matt Scott and Adame Tucker. Didn't really have him. I didn't watch a whole lot of them heading into this week, but that's going to change.
Yeah.
Speed, power, bend, on stunts. He did nothing but win. I'm not sure he had a loss all week. And the other is Baylor's Josh Cameron at wide receiver. A weapon down the field. I was a little confused as usage today. They were trying to get him on a lot of short routes, some outs, some curls in. That's not real. He's gonna get down the field, and I'm gonna go back and watch him because he was winning constantly those first 2 days during one-on-ones when he was able to get down the field and test the secondary.
See, for me, Josh Cameron's one of those guys that we were talking about Malachi Fields earlier, living in contested catch situations down the field. That's Josh Cameron's one of those guys that I'm not sure I would want living in contested catch situations down the sideline. I think coming over the middle, being kind of a big slot, possession receiver, that's where he's going to live. I don't think he's going to, almost not quite a gadget player or whatever, but I think he could play maybe a little bit of like an H-back role even sometimes. He's just got that big running back body. It's almost confusing seeing him down there with that number 34 on his back. Like, listen, you're built like a running back. You get the number of a running back. Figure out what you're doing, okay?
I think we've covered Joshua Cameron on this very podcast with EJ because he has to change his number. Yeah. I think we will cover in Baylor.
I hate that, man. I love watching that guy. I love watching that guy get downfield in the run game and smoke a corner, just like flattens guys as a run blocker. It's not, that run blocking similar to like tackling with corners. Like it's not going to kill you. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things that like is a plus. It's a plus. It's a plus for Cameron. He just flattens corners. And I'm going to go back to Ndambe Tucker, and Mr. Sparks down here is talking about him too.
I think Ryan was on the Baylor podcast with EJ where we were critiquing the number 34. So I think Ryan was on the other side of the camera on that one.
Yeah.
One last thing on Cameron.
EJ, do you have another guy? Oh. Let's just keep going around. So EJ, do you have another guy that you want to talk about that you got to go back and watch again?
Kalen Black, running back from Indiana. I'm going to go back and watch
him more.
Yeah, you couldn't cover him when they did the running back versus linebacker drills. They couldn't cover him at all. He running a little option route and turn the option route into a wheel route. Nobody could stick with him. Like I like the quickness that he has, and even in the team drills, he runs with a little bit of power. He's a decisive runner, 5'10", 206. So I like what I saw from him. And real quick on Josh Cameron, he was also an excellent punt returner at Baylor. So he would fit into that big slot role where he can just get the run after catch yards. That's the type of player he is. He's another guy. I like the way he snatches the ball out of the air. He attacks the ball in the air. But like he's got some quickness to him, but like that big slot, that Juju Smith-Schuster type of guy, he's that type of player.
Well, and the problem with Cameron, though, that we haven't touched on and that this event won't touch on is the ball security, right? He's had a fumbling issue. And so that's something when you're going to live off yards after catch, off my ability to punt return, you better figure out how to hold on to that football because you can't be dropping it all over the place. So that's something he's going to have to work on right out of the gate in his rookie year, no matter where he ends up.
2 hands.
So, Randy, you have to drop one more player's name of somebody you got to go back and watch more of.
I don't know that I need to, maybe watch more of him, but Jacob Rodriguez is the guy that I'm curious about. Okay. He's measurables are going to be very, very low percentile for a linebacker, but at some point in time, you just need to take football players. Okay. Yeah. And this guy is an amazing football player. And I'm talking about like, maybe there are a lot of people who think he's top 15, top 20 in the class in terms of just evaluating football players. I think this is going to be a guy who's probably going to end up going on day 2, maybe late on day 2. There are some people who even think he falls into the day 3 range. And you're going to get a guy that is just, how did I get him where I got him? I think this week showed all of that. He's down there playing against, all-star players, making big plays, interceptions, impact plays. He's a walking turnover machine. And I think he's going to have a great pro career. And I'm just wondering, where folks think, what do you think is too high to take Jacob Rodriguez? And I'll ask you, EJ. I'll kick right back to you. Where is too high for your team? I don't know your team, by the way. So what is your team, and where would be too high for Jacob Rodriguez to be selected by them?
So for my Eagles, I think anywhere before day 3 would be too high. I mean, because athletes get drafted, so I'm thinking he's gonna go somewhere day 3. But for my team, we're pretty stacked at linebacker for the first time ever. So they're probably I would say I'll give day 3.
I'm a Chiefs fan. I feel the same way. I think that I will be viscerally angry if the Chiefs draft a linebacker in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. So I love Jacob Rodriguez. Like this guy said, master of the peanut punch. Dude has a nose for the ball.
I will pound the table for players who have an eye for the football. I love the show talk about Bud Clark. That's a guy. Rodriguez is another. Bryce Betcher at Oregon. Kyle Lewis at Pitt. Those are guys. If you have a nose for the football and you can locate it through the air and play through contact, I don't care what your measurables are. I'm pounding the table for you. And Rodriguez qualifies as one of those guys.
Super underrated thing about Jacob Rodriguez, or not really underrated, but understated, I guess, is just also, and maybe Anthony can speak to this because he's at the event, but he practices hard. On film, you can watch it. Incomplete passes, he's running after the ball, man. The play is over and he is not done playing football. So I think that there's also, especially on defense, there's a certain amount that just giving max effort will get you. This guy's never taking a play off. There are guys that are going to take a play off. It's frustrating, but this is a guy who is going to be, he wants to be on the field. He wants to hit people. He wants to play the game, and he wants the ball. So I was also impressed by him.
So Anthony,
yeah, I mean, I in a recent Pats draft podcast we did. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, in a recent Pats draft podcast that Jim and I did together, I took Jacob Rodriguez in the 2nd round, and I was not disappointed by it. I think that up here we got Mike Vrabel kind of running the show, and I think his past shows that he is more of a fan of tape than he is of measurables. So
he belongs there for the right team.
Definitely day 2 pick. Yeah,
for the right spot, he belongs there.
Yeah.
So Anthony, any other player you want to bring everybody's attention to that you want to either go back and watch or just stand out from the week?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add on Rodriguez. For the Jets are abhorrent at every defensive position these days. So we certainly could use him. I don't know if I'd want. So the Jets have 4. We have 2 second-round picks and 2 first-round picks. No third-round picks. So with that, framing it that way, I don't think I want the Jets drafting Rodriguez until day 3 either. Because I wouldn't use a top 50 pick on him. I still think, yeah, man, you love the dude, you love the effort, you love the nose for the ball. All that's great. At the end of the day, I think he's still an average athlete and average measurables. And this is actually a really good linebacker group. So I just don't think I still don't think top 50 cuts it for me for Rodriguez. I'm gonna stay with linebackers. And I'm gonna throw out Owen Heineke from Oklahoma. He balled out today. He had a really good week overall, but today in particular, balled out, was flying all over the field. Had a nice pass breakup on a running back option throw. Had a really nice run stop on an outside zone play. That dude was flying all over the field.
Was Heineke the one who had the peanut punch, as the receiver was making the catch? Was that who did
yes. Yeah, I think he did do that. I know Kyle Lewis did that too. But I think Heineke had a forced fumble also. But yeah, man, he was just again moving all over the place. And full disclosure, not somebody that he was like one of the few people I actually didn't get to watch before Senior Bowl. I'd heard his name thrown around, but I didn't have an eval on him. Yeah, he's absolutely somebody that I'm gonna want to watch.
Okay, Matt, one more name.
Yeah, first I wanted to say for who EJ brought up, I have to go back and watch more of Kalen Black. Very experienced running back, and I liked what I saw from him when he was playing at Indiana, and I liked it when I was watching it live on TV, but I didn't get a chance to go back and watch that film. A lot of it was that I was watching Indiana, and I wasn't watching for running backs because similar to how I know Alan Heron, I know Roman Hemby. And Roman Hemby is also very fun. I really wish he was at this event because I think he's going to test well at the combine. Another dude that's just an awesome person. I swear I don't think that about everybody from Maryland, trust me. But I wanted to give some shout out to Roman Hemby because I like him a lot. But I'm going to move to one of the more like undervalued positions just in the NFL nowadays, which would be the slot corner. I think Jalen Kilgore from South Carolina is a guy that everybody needs to watch a little bit more. Whether it's at the Senior Bowl or just the film in general, nickel corners are becoming essential in the NFL right now. You need a guy that can play that really strong coverage on a variety of receivers because, like we mentioned before with Cameron, you're getting these bigger slots in the NFL, but there's also the smaller ones like Khalil Shakir who can shake and bake. And then also, if you're going with the nickel corner, you're sacrificing a linebacker. So you need somebody that can play and run defense. Jalen Kilgore can do all of it. Around the middle of the season, I had him as my number one nickel corner. He has since been passed by Scott from Miami, Keontae Scott. Love him, but Jalen Kilgore is a fun watch on film. This isn't exactly a Senior Bowl like take. I think he played well enough at the Senior Bowl. He did an interview about kind of like dropping some weight, and he still looked plenty physical there, so I was happy about that. But man, he's listed at a safety on film. This guy needs to be in the slot every single snap in the NFL. He is a full-time starter. I love him.
Christian, one last player. You got the last player of the podcast. Big shoes.
Player I did not watch at all coming into the event, but he consistently caught my eye, and that's Quintavious Hutchins from Boston College.
Yeah.
Talk about Ben.
Crazy.
I mean, Markel Bell stood no chance whenever he was, because he's small enough and quick enough. He can get right underneath his arms and wrap right around, no contest. So I'm definitely have to check him out.
Cool. Well, first of all, I want to give props to all five of you because it's tough having six people on a podcast. You know, I put something in the group chat, hey, who wants the podcast in the Senior Bowl? And it's awesome that there were 3 people that volunteered, right? So it's awesome that we were able to make all of this work. So let's pause real quickly, let everybody know kind of what your social medias are and how to find you. So Christian, feel free to introduce yourself to everybody watching and let them know how to find you.
Yep. So my name is Christian Zwick. My social, as you see on the tag there, at Zwick_Christian on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I'm kind of brand new to this podcast thing. Been part of the Draft Professors for a couple months now. But follow along on my socials. Check out my draft boards and mock drafts. And appreciate the support.
Oh, love having you on, Matt. Welcome to the channel.
I'm brand new. This is my first one. My socials listed there. You can follow me, Chabot Sports, on Twitter. I also run a website called Next Up CFB, where I kind of write my own articles. I have my full position rankings, updated draft boards. Sometimes I do mock drafts, things like that. Just a variety of different things over there. But I joined here to kind of do some podcasts with people who do it the best, and that's what I was looking for. And I had a good time today. I'm hoping to be back and do some more regular appearances out here, and feel free to shoot me a follow and talk about the draft. I always love comments, so love talking with people.
Love having you. Thank you. Anthony, it's great to see you on a weeknight.
Of course, happy to be here live from Mobile. You can find me on X at Anthony_Russo97. I've posted a bunch of clips and interviews with players and a bunch of stuff from here in Mobile. And I've got my Substack. I'm gonna post either. I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do the big board reveal first or a mock draft. It'll probably wind up being the big board. So my top 150 will probably be out within the next couple days, probably when I get back to New York. But that's going to be my next project. So you can very much look forward to that and all sorts of more draft content as we're now officially 84 days away from the NFL draft, which is just insane to me, at least.
Get to cramming.
Right? It's almost time for draft miss. Almost time
Yes.
for draft miss.
Randy.
So my name's Randy. I do have an X or Twitter account. It's called RI Sports News. I rarely use it. Most of my stuff gets posted on YouTube, or I have a page on Facebook, Snap Judgments. The YouTube link is right there. And just put that in. I do a daily show in the morning, about an hour. Right now, I'm in the middle of a 5-part series doing a deeper dive on about 50 Senior Bowl prospects. And we'll roll probably next week and do a lot of Super Bowl preview stuff because I'm a kind of more Patriots focused type of guy. So tune in there and subscribe. And I'm always looking for folks that want to hop on and talk draft on my podcast too. So if any of you gentlemen or any of the folks watching are interested in doing that, you can hit me up. I'm in the group chats and whatnot.
Cool. EJ, we had a lot of company. It's not just you and me today, but it's good to see
right?
you.
The full house. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to mention
just
everybody about all of your draft content.
Yeah, basically you can catch me every Thursday here at 9 on the Mrs. Are Relevant podcast. You can also catch me on my Twitter handle. You can see it right there at the bottom of your screen. Basically what I am doing is on my Twitter feed is basically film-based analysis, draft prospects, scheme fits. Pretty much all my opinions are film-based, so don't argue with me, argue with the film. And you can also, I do the Rogue Analytics draft guide, so keep an eye out for that. At the end of the draft cycle, I'm doing running backs and wide receivers this year. And pretty much, as always, I never, ever, ever say the word generational.
Yes. Also, really quick, just to answer this dude in the chat that is wondering, both of those guys are at the Senior Bowl.
Yep. And I want to thank everybody watching. So if this is your first Draft Professor podcast, where have you been all of our lives? But I can tell that there's a lot of new people watching. You can subscribe on YouTube, hit that subscribe, and we are here every day. 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. So we had a running back podcast that finished an hour ago, or at this point, I guess it's 2 hours ago. And then we did the Senior Bowl show tonight, but we have 2 podcasts every night, Monday through Thursday. Friday nights is our biggest podcast of the week. It's a group mock draft. We will have 32 people drafting for 32 teams. We will have a couple people on the podcast. Ironically, tomorrow, EJ is going to be one of the people on the podcast, I believe. And he'll be talking about everybody's pick. So we're going to go 3 rounds, 32 people picking. You will hear EJ's evaluation of everybody, and he'll be on the podcast with Clint. So Clint is not here tonight, but I believe Clint was in Mobile with Anthony, kind of thing. So Draft Professor, we have 110 podcasters at the Draft Professor. You're seeing 6 of them on the same podcast right now. We don't normally have 6, but it's the Senior Bowl. It's kind of what we did to make tonight work. So I want to say thank you to everybody watching. I want to say give all 5 of these gentlemen a follow. Draft Professor would not function without each of them showing up to put out daily draft content. I believe in 3 Sundays, that would be February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, you will actually see Anthony starting our Sunday night podcast series once the NFL season ends. So you will see Anthony every Sunday night. And I'm looking forward to figuring out what that content is because I don't necessarily know. EJ and Christian will be here on this exact podcast next week doing Fangio defensive fits. So if your team runs a Fangio defense or you want to learn what the Fangio defense is, tune in next Thursday, 9 p.m. And EJ and Christian are going to tell you players that fit the scheme. So with that being said, for the 110 podcasters at the Draft Professor, for Christian, Matt, Anthony, Randy, EJ, and myself, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your Thursday night, and we will see you at our live mock draft tomorrow at 7 Eastern. Thank you very much, everyone.